Good evening, race fans, and welcome to the Belly Up Sports Cup Series for the Monster Mile 200 at Dover Motor Speedway. Here on the Elite Racing Network, my name is David Westergreen, joined by our producer, David Huckleberry, my co-announcers, Zach Evans and James Watson. And we'll lead in with you, James, since I believe this will be your last broadcast with us for the remainder of the season, but a fun one expected tonight at Dover. Take me through the track.
There's nothing like Dover. There's a reason why they call us the Monster Mile. It's like Bristol, but twice the size and twice as mean to the drivers out there. You've got to be real careful setting the car down into the corner and picking it back up. If you're not careful, you're going to just slam into the wall if you're not paying attention. And so it's going to make side-by-side racing and trying to make your way through the field so difficult. So you really want to make sure you nail qualifying, otherwise Miles will catch you.
That's absolutely right. Miles the Monster coming after us tonight. Zach, 200 laps this evening at Dover. Ethan Burrell, I believe our winner last season in this race, led all 200. Do we expect a more competitive race tonight than we saw last year?
I would expect that, just because, it's so hard to... you don't see dominant performances like that too terribly often, but, regardless... One thing we're definitely going to have to keep an eye on is this playoff battle. Second race of the round of 16. Some drivers really dancing around that 10th place cutoff. Ryan Gable just under the cut line, but it sounds like he's probably a starting part tonight. Garrison Hogan, Tate Lytle will be looking for good runs tonight. And, of course, next round, the new Atlanta Motor Speedway. So if you find yourself below that cutoff line, it pretty much puts you in a real sketchy situation next week.
Yeah, next week's going to be that big time wild card race that we kind of all dread when it comes to the playoffs here. But qualifying has wrapped up, and the 4D Raceware Pole Award winner for this evening's race is Blake Reynolds after last week's computer glitch that wound up costing Blake Reynolds the potential win. He's going to start from the pole alongside his teammate Garrison Hogan in second. Tyler Fody and Trey Holmes with a good qualifying run will go from row number 2. Justin Wadsworth and Scott Crump, teammates there in row 3 with Ethan Burrell and Matthew Weeks, also teammates there in row 4. Ethan Stanley, last week's winner, will be on the inside of row 5 alongside Tate Lytle. And then you've got teammates in row 6 with Nick Massey and Jeff Green.
Good to see two of those 967 South Shore cars lined up next to each other there. Josh Adams will roll off from the 13th spot. David Tooker qualifying 14th. Corey Abbott 15th. Jonathan Cutlett rolling off 16th. Michael Hosak will start 17th. Gavin Higgins qualifying in the 18th position. Harrison Talon starting 19th. Ray Bracey will round out the top 20. On the 11th row, you have a Leighton Norgard on the inside, and Paul Mikolajczyk will start 22nd. Dustin Dewar qualifying 23rd. Justin Vandermarl rolls off 24th.
Brent Jones from 25th alongside Pneumonia Boy Ty McIntosh tonight. He may be short for this race due to illness over there. Kyle Hanshaw and Caleb Becumer are 27th and 28th. Mark Urbilas and Gerald Campbell make up the 15th row. Gilberto Javier Gomera and Gavin Hibbs will be row 16. Poor qualifying effort for Hibbs, last night's winner in the ARCA Series and runner-up last week. So we should see something big from that 95 car to run forward. Johnny Thomas and Chris Wright there in row 17. Seth Rawls and Michael Goodman going from row 18. And then Chad Frankenfield with a really bad qualifying run starting from 37th tonight. And alongside Ryan Gable. Gable should be a starting park, as Zach mentioned in the opener. Cars are rolling off the grid now. Alrighty, boys. Who do we think is going to take this one home? And I'll start with James.
I think it's going to be Fody. I feel like that's definitely one person you can't count out, and that's putting it mildly.
Zach, who you got?
You know what? I'll take Ethan Burrell. He's won the last 2 here at Dover. We'll see if he can make it 3 in a row.
Dave, who you got?
I'll take Tate Lytle to win tonight.
And you guys are going to leave me with Blake Reynolds. I'll take him for this one from the pole. It's going to be tough to pass at this Monster Mile, Dover Motor Speedway. These guys head into the restart zone here, and off turn 4, Blake Reynolds hits the loud pedal. We are racing in the Monster Mile 200 at Dover. Reynolds, Tyler Fode leading. Fode going to look to the inside of Blake Reynolds. A really good start for Tyler Fode. Can you complete a pass, though? That's going to be the key. Fode alongside Reynolds from the 3rd starting spot. Really good position here, but Blake Reynolds going to be really strong up on that outside lane. This might be a battle that rages early in this race. It's going to be Blake Reynolds, I think. Oh, got him. Cleared Tyler Fode.
Oh, man, Tyler's making short work of this, though. He does not want to sit in P2.
If you've got that, an idea of that next-gen car and the way this thing handles around Dover Motor Speedway, that clean air is so crucial, so important to have on the front nose of your next-gen car. Right now, Trey Holmes kind of backing up, and he's backing Scott Crump up as well. Ethan Stanley rolling through. Matthew Weeks working the bottom, as well as Nick Massey in the 48 car. Ethan Burrell, Justin Wadsworth have already cleared this group. They're still 2 wide. Down the back straightaway, Holmes is now clear of Matthew Weeks, his teammate. Scott Crump going to continue to lose spots.
Trouble. Jeff Green is around in turn 3 against the outside wall.
Saw David Tooker out of the groove. I wonder if there was any connection there. There might have been. It's like Jeff and Corey Abbott might come together here. Oh, that might have been some net code.
Yep.
Looks like some net code.
And David Tooker's going to get around this incident.
Wow. What a job driving there by car 19. And Jeff
Tooker
might be okay unless it hit a little too hard on the left front there.
It's a pretty square hit, and it didn't look too bad. The damage model with this thing is so inconsistent. Like, I was in a race last night, and got someone turned down into me. I only got 12 seconds, but they had like 3 minutes, even though I only hit them in their door. So you never can tell with this car. So he might be all right. He might have a meatball. Who knows? It's anyone's guess.
Right. I do believe we can tell. No meatball in this 2 car, but he did bring it down pit road alongside Johnny Thomas, Ty McIntosh, and a few others. Ty, obviously, I think starting in parking that 35 car tonight.
Done. So he's done. He announced over to driver's chat that caution would mark the end of his evening. So he has climbed out of car 35, and he's got to probably get some fluids and maybe a NyQuil or 2 and call it a night.
Yeah, at least he's not having to worry about pulling a Watkins Glen like the last time he was ill on a Wednesday night. But yeah, still too much for him to really push through, and I don't blame him. Pneumonia is no joke.
Yeah, pneumonia is not a something you mess around with. In fact, we've got Ty McIntosh. I feel like we can bring him up. The caution was pretty light. Not a whole lot to talk about there. So presuming we're socially distanced here in the booth. Ty, how you feeling? Hopefully you're feeling a little bit better tonight.
I mean, yeah, the antibiotics are doing their thing. I definitely feel like I sound a little better. I know what this racetrack is, and I don't think I would have fun driving around 200 miles, trying not to cough up a lung, and try not to kill everybody, especially in a playoff race. So I concluded the Ty McIntosh experience early. What is it with me getting stuck on Wednesdays? At least there's no Watkins Glen incident. We're good.
James did bring that up.
Yeah, I just called it.
But yeah, so we're glad you're feeling better, and hopefully you're back with us next week. Any shout outs you want to give before we send you off tonight to go rest up and feel better?
Yeah, Carlos through ITV, everybody that sponsors on the 35 machine. I know it has been the greatest season. I've missed a couple races, but hopefully I can get everybody the acknowledgement they deserve, and next season's a little better. I can only hope. So
we appreciate it, Ty. Go get better, buddy. Go rest up, and have a good night.
Thank y'all. You too.
Yeah, we'll feel better for sure. We'll rest from our pneumonia. Blake Reynolds, the race leader. He'll be alongside Tyler Fode on this restart. Reynolds' teammate Garrison Hogan restarting behind him. Into the restart zone they go. Reynolds went very early in the zone. It gives him a little bit of a boost, but Hogan struggles to get through the gears. That's going to stack up the inside lane. Looks like everybody was able to check up and make it through, but Hogan loses 4 spots, blocking out Ethan Burrell, Trey Holmes, Scott Crump, and forcing them back into the field as well. Scott Crump now to the inside of Trey Holmes. That'll be a big move going into turn 3. Not one that's going to get made. And now Crump, I think, will be able to clear Holmes up front. Hogan going back after Matthew Weeks. Tyler Fode looking after Reynolds for the race lead on the bottom. And that big moment pulled Justin Wadsworth through to 3rd and Ethan Stanley through to 4th. So Reynolds now trying to fend off those Lake Norman cars while Garrison Hogan's going to try to fight his way back to the front.
And you absolutely have to give a call out to everyone in this field after Garrison Hogan stumbled on that restart. We've seen so many times, both in real life and in the sim, how treacherous these Dover restarts can be with that self-cleaning banking on the straightaways. And fortunately, everybody on their heels and paying attention and making sure that didn't lead to a disaster here early in the race.
We've seen a bunch of 10, 15 car pileups here at Dover on that front straightaway on these restarts, and that makes things difficult as there's a battle for second now brewing between Justin Wadsworth and Tyler Fode, those two Lake Norman teammates trying to sort out who will be the first to chase Blake Reynolds. Fode might have gotten a little piece of the wall down the back straightaway there, but I think he's going to utilize that top groove, clear back by Justin Wadsworth, and maybe he found a little speed up there. He's going to try to make a run now inside of Blake Reynolds for that race lead once again. Tyler Fode continuing to put the pressure on that 66, and he might clear him here in turn 1. Really good move by Tyler Fode, and he drives through turn 2. He'll grab that race lead in front of Blake Reynolds, and already we have more lead changes in this race than we did all of last season.
And Justin Wadsworth still has that fender to the inside of Blake Reynolds for the second spot. And, I mean, you could just see, you guys both know how treacherous that transition could be from the corners to the straightaway.
Oh, Nick Massey looking 3 wide.
Justin Wadsworth to second. Massey's the driver jumping up on that outside lane. First one really in the midfield to do it, but he's flying forward.
Oh, he might be
Esposito, Caleb Pecumer.
No yellow.
Not yet.
No yellow.
Oh, there's contact now. Now it's the yellow. Gilberto into the wall. Looked like he got tangled up with Marker Bilas trying to dodge Ray Bracey and Caleb Pecumer.
So this started with Ray Bracey sideways.
It's like a bunch of letters got a piece of Ray Bracey here.
Yeah, I think Paul, I don't think he was looking to make the move, but he kind of got caught with the nose in there a little bit, maybe a little bit of netcode as well. They come together on the entrance of 3. Bracey's going to make the save here, and Mikolajczyk does do a pretty good job of getting off of him, and Tooker kind of helps correct Bracey there, and then he's got to get a little tag right here from Justin Vandermarl. That's got to send Pecumer into the wall, but otherwise, Pecumer probably got the worst of that deal. Otherwise, we're all going straight, but like you said, they kind of collect here behind Bracey with Rabilis and Gomera. And here we're going to get a look at that. Great button pushing by Dave Huckleberry to bring you all of this in one replay. And right there's where they come together. And that's going to send Gomera into the inside wall.
Yeah. Poor David Tooker. He managed to dodge one South Shore car, but wasn't quite able to dodge the second one. And
neither South Shore car was particularly responsible for either of those incidents either. Netcode deemed responsible for that first one, and then just that racing contact, I think, probably between Mikolajczyk and Ray. And then I will say, you mentioned that Caleb might have the worst damage there, Zach. I wonder how bad that damage is on the rear bumper of Ray Bracey's car. That diffuser so important in creating the downforce for this next-gen car. That might be some significant damage there, and I'm a little bit worried, but we'll see. That was a really good save for Ray. He kept that car pointed the right direction once he got contact from David Tooker.
Yeah, plus there might be a decent amount of damage on Justin Vandermeer's car. He was the one that kind of plowed into the back of the 7 car. Not the first time we've seen that this season. So curious to see how much damage he gets from that.
Ray is already off pit road well before he needed to be, so maybe the contact was pretty light on that 7 car. Up front, we did see a lead change. That's the first one we've seen at Dover in this series in a couple of races, as Tyler Fody took that race lead from Blake Reynolds. Nick Massey has ascended to 4th in this early going. Guys, you think Massey's going to feel any repercussions for running that top lane? And maybe is Reynolds trying to save the tires a little bit too much where he's actually losing spots early in the running?
I mean, now that he has an opportunity to kind of cool the tires down under caution, I don't think it will affect him too much. The tires on this car are super finicky, but because of the fact that he's had an opportunity to cool them down and he wasn't up there for all that long, I think he might be in better shape. If we continued under green and he was still running that line, he would absolutely be hurting, but I think he might be all right for the near future at least.
We'll see here. I'm very intrigued by that. Obviously, Ethan Burrell had also made his way up to that top lane to try and make up some spots, and it worked for Nick Massey. He's up in P4 on this restart. Tyler Fody is the race leader on that outside lane. He's got Justin Wadsworth, his teammate, to the bottom. Fody's going to get into the restart zone, get going, and get a really good launch. Garrison Hogan stumbled again on this restart in the outside lane. You can see the space behind Nick Massey. That's going to open the door for Ethan Stanley and Ethan Burrell. Massey's going to clear Blake Reynolds for third here down the back straightaway, I think.
Yeah, Garrison has been struggling on these restarts and starts. Like, every time hasn't been able to get the jump he's needed, and he's lost a lot of positions because of it.
Justin Wadsworth peeking to the inside of Tyler Fody while Hogan battles side by side with Ethan Stanley. Yeah, Wadsworth just about got into his teammate Tyler Fody for that race lead. Fody's trying to run that defensive line. We've seen it from Tyler Fody. Someone just wreck in turn 2.
Tate Lytle has hit the wall a ton in turn 3.
Oh. After his bad race at the Roval, that might spell the end for Tate Lytle, barring a win next week. It looks exactly like all of the contact we've seen so far. All 3 incidents have been entering turn 3 just like this. Oh, my goodness.
It's like a carbon copy of the last one with Paul and Ray. A little bit of, a little bit of net code, but I still think there would have been contact regardless, but without the net code, I don't think it would have been quite as violent as what we saw from this one and the one prior.
And I had almost made a point to mention in that last set that Ray Bracey was either did a very good job or got very fortunate to not overcorrect and snap into the outside wall, and that's pretty much exactly what happened there with Tate Lytle. He probably barely put any wheel to the right. It all happened so fast, but even just that little bit of reflex was enough to send him head on into the wall.
So,
yeah, this car's finicky. Like, every time I try to save it, and when I do successfully save it, I'm keeping my wheel at like neutral, like very, very little input. But probably something else happened. Like, I feel like if I could save it in instances like this, someone like Tate, who's 1,000 times better driver than I would ever hope to be, clearly the contact must just have gotten the rear really unsettled past anything anyone can do on that.
For sure. So worth noting, Ethan Stanley is one of the drivers who came down pit road that time by. He'll restart well back in the field. I'm looking 22nd, 23rd spot about for Ethan Stanley, but he's probably taking some tires, going to try and potentially grab an advantage here early in the going. Also might have gotten some damage because he was on pit road longer than some other guys that came down with him. Other guys on pit road that time, Paul Mikolajczyk, Ray Bracey, Corey Abbott. So some of those guys involved in incidents, obviously. But Ethan Stanley, last week's winner, already off to a bit of a tough start. And it looks like actually he might have sped on pit road. That might be part of his issue here because he is dropping all the way to the rear of the field. Note, and obviously I think we expected as much, but Tate Lytle did receive a meatball flag for that incident. He is likely very done for the night.
He needs his CAT scan.
Yeah, when he hit the wall, the car immediately lit out the magic smoke.
So that'll be it. I think likely for Tate Lytle, which it's going to be very difficult for Tate, and I think to get back in this. He's going to have to win next week at Atlanta, and that's no easy feat at a track that's chaotic as that. Pace car is off. Tyler Fode and Justin Wadsworth on the front row. They will lead us back to the green flag. Fode gets going in the restart zone. Nick Massey and Wadsworth spin the tires a little bit. That's going to bottle the field up a little bit, but everybody able to keep the vehicle straight and off of one another. Massey clears Wadsworth for second. It'll be Hogan alongside Justin Wadsworth for third. Stacked up Blake Reynolds. He's now side by side with Scott Crump down the back straightaway, and give that spot to Reynolds.
Good gracious.
Wow.
Man. That is savage. Holy.
Did I read that right? That there was no tally for Gerald? Call it a racing deal? All right, 10-4. Nick Massey.
It's not a racing. It's not a tally when it's a criminal offense.
He's going to be prosecuted. Nick Massey's going for the race lead after Tyler Fode right here. And Hogan and Reynolds battling it out side by side. Give that spot to Blake Reynolds. Now Scott Crump will go to the top, try and get around Garrison Hogan. Meanwhile, it's Nick Massey going after Tyler Fode on the bottom of the racetrack. That 48 car is alongside the 40. Oh, not quite. Nick Massey's not able to get there. Now he will be. Oh, a little net code. A little net code contact between Massey and Fode. And that'll give the lead to Nick Massey. Tyler Fode's going to lose several spots. The net code tonight is really providing it's making it entertaining, but it's really not what you want. As Tyler Fode loses 10 spots or so in a spot where he and Nick Massey did not make contact.
Well, and James, you're going to be able to back me up when I say this, and hopefully we don't wreck before I finish the point. But we know this all too well with the Silver Crown cars. Anytime you get these high bank, high velocity racetracks where you're racing close quarters to each other, it tends to exaggerate and aggravate those net code tendencies because you're carrying so much speed and so much momentum. And I think these guys got to be relaying the message to each other to maybe just give a little more room tonight because it's not going to go away.
Absolutely. And it seems to be specifically really bad here at Dover. Like you saw a couple weeks ago when the new ARCA car launched and all the netcode issues that everyone was highlighting and pointing out. Where were they in week one? Here at Dover. You know, everyone is so compressed going down into these corners, but still carrying such a high rate of speed. There's absolutely no track like this anywhere on the sim. And so because of that, you know, it just makes the prediction code go haywire because it's so weird how the cars jump down into the corner and how they get near each other, and so that's why we're seeing it this bad. But it go on.
I was just gonna say, I mean, James remembers at one point Dover and Bristol were blacklisted in the Silver Crown schedule making process because of how bad the netcode could be here with those cars.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've seen it already, I think 4 times in total tonight where some netcode has had some responsibility towards the contact being given out. Seth Rawls into Chris Wright. Both are in the wall. Rawls down to the inside wall. That's big damage for Seth Rawls. He's going to stack the field up behind him. Rawls' car is broken. He's trying to get out of the way right now. There's just nowhere to get out of the way at Dover.
Emerging positions.
And Corey's the one who really got screwed on that one.
Amazing job by Corey to avoid running him over, though. Like, he had hardly any time to react. He still saved the day for everyone in the second half of the field.
It looks like Seth tried to maybe go behind Chris. I would need a more direct online approach there for the initial contact, but then Seth got a piece of the inside wall, and that really stopped up this 25 car.
Yeah, it turned him into a pinball. Like, the steering was all kinds of screwed up. Not much Seth can do here. Yeah, like, I think they just kind of ran out of time on trying to figure out what to do, and when they made contact, it just allowed the next gen effery, chattery, if you will, to rear its ugly head and just screw over both cars. Wright seems to have gotten away with it in a much better position than what ended up happening to Seth, thankfully for his sake.
So Chris, back in P20 right here, Seth Rawls, the second playoff, well, actually the third playoff driver to have an issue tonight. And this one, a very costly one, as Rawls will now be multiple laps down, sitting on pit road with damage. He will follow in the tire tracks of Tate Lytle and David Tooker, both of whom have been involved in multiple wrecks tonight. At least for Tooker, he's rebounded. He's all the way back up into 15th, but a rough start to the evening for those two guys.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Nick Massey up front got himself a pretty solid lead, nearly a full second on the two of the three Channel 199 cars.
You know,
Heck
it's
of a run for Nick.
It's been about 3 years now since I've seen Nick Massey at this pace, and he's starting to lose some speed. I think this may be a bit of a short run car right now for South Shore Racing, but hats off to Nick Massey, right? It's been a while. He's a former championship contending driver in this series and in multiple other series, but just a little bit, you know, it's been a little bit of a struggle for him over the last couple of seasons, adapting to the way this next gen car has changed. And it's good to see him having a good run here early on in the going tonight, even if that contact between Tyler Fody was definitely net code. But that kind of got him this lead with the checkups and whatnot. And he was able to hold it for quite some time here. And it's good to see that 48 car out front.
Yeah, just as we say that, though, here comes the 66 already under half a second. Clearly, I think the 66 was just wanting to kind of chill out for the opening stint of this race. Like, we saw immediately, Fody was swarming him, trying to slip by, and Blake, at this point, is just like, all right, you all can have it. And now that we're a good chunk of the way through this first stint, now he's starting to stretch out the legs and put to use whatever tire advantage he's been building up with these easy, chill laps here.
I love Dover. As we watch on board with Blake Reynolds right here, you can see just how much he drives it down into the corner, how big of a fall off it is. You know, the real life guys will tell you it's like driving down like a first hill of a roller coaster going into these corners. Look how much that car drops into the banking, and I love it. I love the way the car drives in the center of the corner here, where you can kind of run any line and find success. It works in every car. It doesn't matter whether it's this next gen car or, you know, one of the high horsepower cars, or like Zach's been talking about, the Silver Crown cars. Like, you can find speed anywhere at Dover just because of the way this track is shaped. Blake Reynolds making his hay right now on the bottom of the racetrack, staying glued to that transition between the concrete and the asphalt, and it's working out for him here as he's going to get ready to challenge Nick Massey for the race lead.
Well, and from that onboard, you could see those first couple of laps, Nick Massey was really glued to the bottom, and Blake had a little bit more of a diamond. Now you see Nick Massey has moved up the track, trying to find a little bit of speed, and because of that, Blake is having to run a little bit lower all the way through the corner to keep that clean air on his nose.
Yeah, you can see the games being played right here, but you know, this is just racing. This is how it's got to be. Massey's car also, I think, is a little bit tight right now. Obviously, we talked about the tire wear. Feel like that 48 car might have burned the rubber just a little bit on that right front. That's not allowing that car to turn like he had been turning in the center of the corner, and that's what's causing him to rise up the track, and that's going to allow Blake Reynolds to jump to the inside right here on Nick Massey and go for the race lead, and he'll complete that pass through turn 2 and give it to Blake Reynolds once again here down the back straightaway as we're midway through lap 43 of 200. Worth noting, the stage, lap 65, sure Blake Reynolds has his eyes on that after giving up the stage point last week, only to not go on and win the race. He probably wants to go ahead and grab that stage point here tonight.
There's something on the back of that 48 cars. It said "The Dweeb." I can't imagine what that could possibly be in reference to. Nothing that has a. Yeah, what is it there, D West?
It is one of Bite Size Sports, who is the sponsor, kind of the sponsor for South Shore Racing. It's one of their affiliates. They do a podcast regarding like movies and TV shows and cover a lot of items of that front. And so we threw their logos on this 48 car. Felt like it worked well with the Shamu logos. And Nick's obviously run it really well this season. He didn't make the playoffs, came a couple of spots short, but yeah, this is the first time we've really gotten to mention the Dweeb. They're on the board. And the guy who runs Bite Size Sports, Kevin Nivek, he also runs the Dweeb, and that's their little movie podcast. So there you go. Out front, it is Blake Reynolds back in the field. Jeff Green's really starting to move forward once again. He and Ethan Stanley trying to carve through the field on fresh tires. Green was backwards on lap 2 of this race. He's all the way up into P14, charging after Gavin Higgins, running 13th in car 13, just in front of Josh Adams and Ethan Stanley. Also Trey Holmes there in the 23 car.
You know, I wanted to mention this last week, and we didn't get the chance because Jeff Green was effectively a start and park in the race at the Roval. But, you know, for those NASCAR fans who recognize Jeff Green, the former Busch Series champion, I don't know if you've gotten the chance to check out that Brock Beard 3-part video series on the tenure of Cartoon Network and its involvement in NASCAR, but Jeff Green interviewed as part of that. Quite an entertaining watch. I hope everybody gets a chance to check out that video series.
I really do like Brock. He puts together a lot of good work. The series he's currently doing as well in the 2001 season, kind of all the storylines around the Daytona 500, an extremely good series. So free advertising for him, obviously. But yeah, Jeff Green, we're rocking the Traders Brewing number 2 Ford. Up into 13th, made that pass on Gavin Higgins. I'm sure the tire advantage working wonders right now for that 2 car. But he and David Tooker have been the ones moving forward here, and here's a really big snarling pack of cars. Scott Crump's backing up. The 90 car ran the top a lot in the early part of this run. That car is really starting to back up. Ethan Burrell is trying to get around him. You've got Tyler Fode in this pack. Gavin Hibbs rather in this pack as well. Gavin Hibbs started 32nd on the grid. He's in the top 10 right now. Chad Frankenfield just behind. He started 37th on the grid. He was just about the last man out there.
Oh, that 19 car was looking to maybe take it 3 wide.
Yeah, Tooker was a little perturbed, as we found out after the race last week with Tyler Fode in that 40. Oh, Tooker just pounded the wall. I don't think that did any harm to that 19 car, but he was a little upset with Tyler Fode. We saw a couple of times he tried to pass Tyler Fode in like turn 7 there and got sideways, fell back. That was right around the time he got into the wall. So we'll see if that has if Tooker changes the way he's driving that 40 car, but for now it seems like he's racing him normally. Everybody's trying to filter around Scott Crump at the moment.
The 19 able to get down to the inside and try to slip by the 90 car. We see
Crump. Go ahead.
I was just going to point out another big mover, Chad Frankenfield, right there. He started on the last row of the grid, and here he is knocking on the door of the top 10.
Yeah, he's done a really good job of getting through the field here. He's taken advantage of some of those incidents, dodged the wrecks. Now he's back up here in the top 5. He had really good pace in practice. I think the overall practice pace, he was top 3 on the board. That was Chad Frankenfield. Now Tyler Fode starting to lose some of those spots as well. David Tooker now underneath Scott Crump. He should be able to clear Crump here. And Fode losing spots. He's going to lose one to Frankenfield. He might lose one to Jeff Green here down the back straightaway as well.
Yeah, Yeah, we saw him pushing like the wind in the first few laps trying to get the lead, but since the little dust up with Massey, he got set back and he has stayed there. But you don't know if the that slide really messed up his tires, but really strange to see Fody kind of falling back like this.
Yeah, and I wonder if, it started at the beginning of this run, unfortunately, so he has not had the chance to maybe come down pit road. You see, we're tracking his teammate Ethan Stanley here. Stanley pitted on that last run through, also got a speeding penalty. He had to fall all the way to the back. He's already back up into 15th. Tell you what, though, right now, Blake Reynolds and Garrison Hogan are setting the pace at the moment. They have a 2-second lead on Justin Wadsworth. Matthew Weeks is starting to pressure Wadsworth for that third position. In fact, he's going to get to the outside of Justin Wadsworth right as I talk about that. Weeks might be the car on the move as this run goes long. That's Matthew Weeks' bread and butter, is these super long runs in this next-gen car, and he flies around. Justin Wadsworth picks up P3. Let's see if Matthew Weeks can make some inroads on those two Channel 199 Toyotas.
And you hit the nail on the head. Definitely these long runs, these long green flag runs, these tire management races, and definitely Dover tends to be one of those kinds of places. Those are the tracks where Matthew Weeks thrives. So definitely a car to keep an eye on as we move forward here in this race.
Yeah, Mr. Where in the heck did he come from? The old Harvick nickname that the guy bestowed upon him a few races ago. He's showing it once again.
Yeah, Weeks really starting to move forward. Another guy who's really moving forward is Weeks' teammate David Tooker. He just flew around Ethan Burrell for the 7th position. A little bit of damage in that early incident with Ray Bracey as we are 5 laps to go in the stage right here, but David Tooker firmly in the stage points, has a really good opportunity to make up some ground on the cut line despite some early woes in this race. He's hunting down Jonathan Cutlip and Nick Massey at the moment. And that battle will be for, I think, the 5th spot in the stage as Cutlip is to the outside of Massey, just in front of David Tooker. So definitely 2 spots for him to go get right here and try to improve his points position before, next week at Atlanta. Chad Frankenfield underneath Scott Crump. That is the battle for 10th. Crump trying desperately to hold on to that last stage point. He will down the front straightaway. Jeff Green gets to the outside of Chad Frankenfield right here. And Jeff's been rolling that outside lane. Those slightly fresher tires are really paying dividends for Jeff. 2 laps to go in the stage. He's also hunting for a stage point, and points have been a little difficult for Jeff to come by this season. He's been involved in quite a few incidents. He will clear Chad Frankenfield. That battle will continue for 10th here with 2 to go in the stage. David Tooker has taken 6th from Nick Massey up the road. Blake Reynolds, Garrison Hogan up in the race lead rather easily, and they will be 1-2 in the stage, barring any catastrophic results here in the final lap. Here's the battle for 10th once again. Jeff's car starting to get tight. He's starting to really push. Scott Crump's really working that outside lane. They're going to get into each other.
No!
Jeff
Wow.
Green into the inside wall. No caution. Lap 65. That was the battle for them. That stage point. Unfortunately, Jeff's not going to be getting that. Blake Reynolds to the line. He'll get stage 1. Garrison Hogan 2nd. Matthew Weeks 3rd. Let's take a look at that replay between Green and Crump. It looked to me like maybe the netcode sucked them together again.
Yeah, I think you might be right on that. It looks like Jeff comes up to side draft Crump, and netcode decided to mix them together. Again, I think there still would have been contact regardless, but netcode decided to make it 1,000 times worse than what it was gonna be without its shenanigans.
Look, the context there, but that doesn't turn Crump sideways, I don't think, and all of a sudden that car hooks to the left.
Good
Jeff
job
gets
by Crump to save it.
Yeah, Jeff gets a piece of the inside while he is now on pit road, as well as a lot of other drivers. Harrison Talon has made a trip to pit road, as has Michael Goodman. Gerald Campbell has made a trip to pit road. So those guys are all kickstarting this run of green flag pit stops, with Kyle Hanshaw might be making his way down pit road right now as well. I think overall, though, you're going to want to probably stretch the tires as long as you can here. I don't think that there's going to be a whole lot of benefit in short pitting at a racetrack like this. You probably want to make the car last out on those tires as long as possible.
Well, the other thing too you have to keep in mind with Dover is the 35 mile per hour pit road speed limit. It takes forever to get down pit road while the field is ripping off 20-something second laps. I mean, you're going to lose likely multiple laps on pit road, so it's very dangerous undercutting, because if you get that caution, it could ruin your night.
Mm-hmm. And then you've got people out there on multiple seconds faster on those new tires, and that can also create that caution flag that you're trying to avoid by making that short pit. So it's a risky strategy, to be sure. As Josh Adams, the latest to make the undercut, he and Johnny Thomas both have worked it here, as Blake Reynolds has that race lead. The battle now for fifth between Jonathan Cutlip and David Tooker. And they're trapped in behind Caleb Pecumer. Pecumer with that damage on the right front from that incident with Ray Bracey earlier in the night. Cutlip gave him a little shot in the middle of the corner, and they move along.
And just to paint some context on that point, Johnny Thomas comes out of the pits. He's 2 laps down, and he is around Ethan Stanley on track, who is running 14th. So that's about 2.5 laps. I mean, roughly. Obviously, he wasn't leading when he pitted, but roughly 2 laps, and he's basically 2.5 laps behind the leader at this point.
Yep. It's he's got to Johnny's got to wait for everybody to get through this pit cycle without another incident. As here's 4 of our lead lap cars from 8th on back. That's Nick Massey, who's good run to get some stage points has netted him a nice start to the evening, but that car is really starting to go away on the handle. Massey's not been able to keep the right front tire on it, and thusly he's backed up into this battle with Chad Frankenfield, Ethan Burrell, Tyler Fody, and others. We'll see if Massey may be one of the next leaders to come down pit road. That seems to be a decent idea here, given the way he's backing up right now. I probably wouldn't drop it down pit road if I was still moving forward, but if you're watching people drive around you, that might be time to go.
Oh, what a save by Paul.
Good save by a bunch of numbers, but he does lose a spot to Trey Holmes in the process.
Okay, there are not any numbers in his last name.
A bunch of letters. I'm saying a bunch of numbers.
I mean, hey, you never know. You never know how Ray is gonna put in his name for the next Quick Shift episode.
Right. I think there was a number in the Quick Shift's name.
Yeah, especially if Ray is, maybe feeling some type of way after their little dust up earlier in the race.
Or you have it, Leighton Norgard back in 17th and 18th, respectively. Nick Massey is on pit road, by the way. So he must have heard me or something. Massey brings that 48 car down pit road, the first of the, we'll call them top 10 cars in the field right here to come down pit road. Here's a look at Ray Bracey as Michael Goodman flashes by on those newer tires. Ray just in front of his teammate Chris Wright. And just behind Dusty Dewar in that 32 car. Blake Reynolds is putting a hurting on the field right now, though. 1 second ahead of second and a half ahead of Garrison Hogan. 2.5, 3-ish seconds ahead of Matthew Weeks, 3.5 to Wadsworth, and then it's 7 seconds to David Tooker, and then 8th place Chad Frankenfield is almost 11 seconds back. This is a really good run right now for Blake Reynolds. This is kind of what we expect out of this guy when we come to a track like this, and he is putting on a show as the pole sitter.
It really highlights the advantage you create for yourself if you take it easy on the first few laps of a run. Obviously, we touched on it earlier. He kind of hesitated and waited a little bit, let everyone kind of pass and use their stuff up. And when it was time to pounce, he pounced, and he is still pulling away.
Yeah, Channel 199 brought some good cars for this one, too. You got Blake, you got Garrison Hogan, both of those guys up here, at the front of the field, kind of really setting the pace right now. And this is about as strong as we've seen Garrison Hogan, but also breaking into the top 10 is Paul Mikolajczyk in that 57 car. He has come through, driven through the field a couple of times thus far. Came up from 22nd starting spot, but he also was involved with Ray Bracey and came down pit road at one of our later cautions. So, Paul is having a good run. All three of those Channel 199 cars are in the top 10. I think we heard a slight lament from Blake Reynolds during one of those podium interviews that he wanted some teammates up there with him. And today he's got them. He's got his teammates up there with him, fighting against the likes of those Pro Edge and Lake Norman cars.
Yeah, we highlighted that Hogan's kind of struggles on the restarts, but the last restart, he absolutely nailed it. He did everything he needed to do, gained a couple spots, and then was able to avoid the Massey Fody incident and slip by, and he's just been chilling in P2 ever since.
Oh, that's Dusty Dewar way up the hill.
I think Dusty's trying out a new line. I think he's trying to see if the outside line will work, but it doesn't appear to be working all that well. These guys are right in front of the race leader, Blake Reynolds. He's coming up on these guys in a hurry right here. Already lapped Chris Wright. He's about to lap Ray Bracey. That's for 21st, so it's pretty quick pace that's getting set right now by Blake Reynolds for this field.
And not far behind Blake in this picture, you're gonna see Johnny Thomas, one of those first cars we saw come down pit road. This will get him to one lap down if he can get around the 66 car here.
Yep, Josh Adams just flew around Blake Reynolds as well. That's a lap back for the 22. And you see just in the background of the screen there, Nick Massey is approaching the race leader Blake Reynolds to try to go back to one lap down as well. So important spots being made up, but it's also slowing down those guys a little bit. It's Ray Bracey might have got a piece of the wall there coming off of turn 4. I think ever so slightly. Don't know that the 7 is damaged, but that car looks like it is a little bit wounded at the moment. Ray's kind of trying to nurse it to the pit stop.
Looked kind of hefty contact to me on initial.
Ooh. Massey just went around 3 wide on the outside. Chris Wright down pit road. Massey went around Blake 3 wide up top. He is flying right now, trying to set as much pace as he can while those guys have older tires, trying to utilize the power of that undercut. And look, if there's one place it might work, it could be Dover, just because you might get the opportunity to pit. As here comes Ethan Burrell, Scott Crump down pit road. You might get the opportunity to wait for that guy to get back on the lead lap, and then the caution falls, right? And you can kind of get back on cycle with the leaders if you do utilize the undercut, and maybe even save a little bit of track position, because those guys might also have to come down pit road if it's timed up correctly. Gavin Higgins just got pit road and then came back up on the track. We missed it. You're going to have to get a replay of that one, Dave. Gavin Higgins just about wiped out Dustin Dewar and Blake Reynolds. Got onto pit road really hot, and I think he overcooked it and slid up the track. He just about got a piece of Blake Reynolds.
I think he almost got a piece of Mark Rabillas here too, and Dustin. He did get Mark Rabillas there. So,
return contact from Mark.
Yeah, Mark obviously not happy with that one.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say the 96 might have, or the 99 might have been speeding on pit road there.
Yeah.
I'd also say he missed his pit stall.
Yep.
Yeah. Maybe he was.
He got a little, I understand that he had all the right in the world to be upset about that, but we've talked about it. You can't let one mistake turn into 3 or 4 mistakes, and the first mistake was not Mark's, but the next 7 were.
Yeah. Mark makes Chris Wright also has stayed on pit road for 5 laps here. I think the 9 car may be done for the night. He might have sped on entry, and now that car might not be leaving pit road. So another case of what you just talked about, right? The potential for those mistakes to compile. Is Jonathan Cutlip really slow in turn 3? Link the 5 car is heading down pit road. Yes, he is. He was starting to lose spots. Got passed by Fody, Frankenfield, and Mikolajczyk. Gavin Higgins does get a tally for that contact with Mark Morales, and that's why, that's why, Zach, what you're talking about there, Mark, the justice comes down. The justice hammer does come down, right? So Mark's doesn't have to do anything. Gavin obviously was in the fault.
He's just opened himself up to potentially get a tally of his own for the return fire. Not to mention he added damage to his own car when he pile drove it into the pit wall after speeding down pit road and missing his pit box.
Yeah. Battle between Mikolajczyk and Frankenfield. Stanley on pit road, so too Ray Bracey. As we continue through this green flag cycle of stops, just 12 cars on the lead lap at the moment, but that will change once these top 12 leaders come down pit road. These guys are trying to stretch to lap 100. Oh, man, Trey Holmes sideways on the bottom. I think that was coming off of pit road in turn 1 for Trey Holmes. He does get it going and stay pointed in the right direction, but that 23 car, those new tires might not be so new right now. If you slid them sideways on the apron, that might be really, really icy the first couple laps until they warm up.
Yeah, to cycle back a little bit ago, I swore I caught a little bit of smoke when Ray Bracey was bringing the 7 car down pit road. It's hard to tell if that really messed anything up or if it was anything you had to worry about, but yeah.
Frankenfield also coming down pit road. What are we? I think he got it down to pit road speed, didn't he? He also missed his pit box.
A lot.
By like 4 stalls. Not a good spot for Chad Frankenfield there. So out of the top 10, he will fall. As these guys are all making it to lap 100 here on fuel. That bodes poorly for the undercut guys.
Yeah, I've touched on it a lot of times this season. Overcut is just so overpowered on the sim, and so obviously that's the strategy that the channel 199 guys are trying to employ, and a few others as well.
Corey Abbott onto pit. Yeah,
I just don't think the undercut is really going to work, and it's especially not going to work given the fuel mileage they're running.
Corey Abbott, Dusty Dewar have hit pit road. But yeah, no, I'm with you. I think the overcut very strong, and it's strong because you have so much ground to make up. I think Zach mentioned it earlier, right? 35 miles an hour down pit road, very, very slow. You are crawling the whole way down pit road. As now Gavin Hibbs hits pit road. There's so much ground to make up once you get back going that, even with the fresher tires, even while you're running faster laps, that's just not going to be enough time to make up 2+ laps with that extra pit stop. So, it might result in a decent finish. I think some of these guys that are dedicated to it now, Nick Massey, Josh Adams, Johnny Thomas, they might result in some decent finishes, but there's just no way you can win the race on that strategy.
Yeah, you need an awful lot of luck to fall your way, and talking about a lot of luck.
Yeah, and you need a caution, right? If you're going to be on that strategy, you need the cautions to fall your way. You need it to work out where you're back on the lead lap by the time the yellow falls. Obviously, Blake Reynolds staying out here past lap 104 is not helping your cause, because at this point, what those guys need is a yellow to fall once they get onto the lead lap. So they need Blake to pit, then they need the yellow to fall so they can get back onto cycle with the leaders. That's basically how it has to happen for you at this point in the race. It's going to be difficult for that to work out for those guys. There's a snarling pack of cars here where Chad Frankenfield is, Dave, if you want to jump to it, because if we're going to have a yellow, it might be from here.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
There's all kinds of different There's all kinds of different strategies here. You got Frankenfield and Higgins who are on very fresh tires. Abbott's on very fresh tires. Goodman and Adams are on semi-old tires. Tyler Fode's on ancient tires. You've got a whole lot going on. Justin Wadsworth down pit road. I really thought those guys were going to.
Yeah, Hossack and Goodman, I think, made contact on corner exit there, but fortunately everybody keeps it under control.
Yeah, a big group of cars at Dover is called a nope.
That's where you get a lot of those big incidents. Matthew Weeks on pit road now as well. Dover kind of famous for those big ones, those big wrecks.
The melee in, I think it was 2008, immediately comes to mind.
When Logano's flipping down the straightaway. Yeah. So those restarts coming off of turn 2 as well, obviously big time issues, I think, for some of these guys. But worth noting, you've got some guys who've pitted who are unlapping themselves from Nick Massey right now as Tyler Fode comes down pit road in that 40 car. So just a really interesting juxtaposition of different strategies here is, I think in Fode's case, Blake Reynolds, Garrison Hogan, who is hitting pit road right now, these guys, I can't even believe they've been able to make it this long on the tires. And they're going to be they might be a lap down behind Nick Massey to this point, but they might be able to go all the way around and get back around him. Reynolds down pit road. Tooker stays out. Mikolajczyk stays out. And so when does David Tooker pit? Yeah, so those guys have a little bit more fuel. I mean, when do those guys pit? Do you just wait a couple laps and then try to pit and make up some ground on Blake Reynolds? Maybe that's the play.
I mean, overcut the overcutters isn't the worst strategy out there. That's what I would do. My philosophy is always, if the tires aren't feeling like they're corded and you're not hemorrhaging time hand over fist, which is not what Tooker and Mikolajczyk have been doing. They've been keeping good lap times.
Oh, man.
Although that was very, very strange.
Tooker might be hemorrhaging spots, right?
Yeah. Does he have a meatball? Did the tire blow?
He does not. He does not.
Okay.
That's the first thing I looked for, because I thought the exact same thing, James.
Yeah, because that thing just shut up the track out of nowhere. And here he is.
He's had enough.
He got the pass!
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Nice.
Wow, what a save.
If there's one thing David Tooker's pretty good at, it's drifting the car and saving it. He does that in practice just about every race. That'll turn the lead over to Paul Mikolajczyk.
This might be hyperbolic in a way, but that might have been the best save I've ever seen while broadcasting this series. That was incredible.
Mm-hmm. Pit road on Dover, not an easy one to get onto. David Tooker got there completely sideways on the apron, spinning the rear tires. Very impressive from Mr. Tooker, able to make that work. That will turn the lead over to Mikolajczyk. He's got 18 seconds over Nick Massey in second. Blake Reynolds is behind Mikolajczyk, a lap down. So the yellow right now would turn this race on its head in the strangest of ways. But a lot of people would take the wave around and we'd end up with 25 cars in the lead lap. So maybe not.
And there you see how much of an undercut like Johnny Thomas got. Obviously, Josh Adams further up the road and so forth. But, I mean, all that advantage he had a chance to build up, and it's about to be completely gone.
Reynolds
Right
putting together really good lap times. He goes around Johnny Thomas. He's only got 6 seconds to get up to Nick Massey. Massey's last lap was a 25 flat. Reynolds' last lap was a 24-1. So he's making up 9/10 of a second a lap on Nick Massey. That should put him up there at about 9 laps till he gets back up past Massey.
Might be a good chance to pull up our handy dandy pit strategy bar graph 3000.
There it is.
And there you see the difference in those strategies, the difference in those tire lifespans currently on the track amongst our front runners.
Yeah, you see
You can see Weeks jumping up with those fresher tires as we're looking at it.
And it's funny because, like, you can see the gains that they made with these tire strategy, you know, plus 25 for Johnny Thomas. But slowly but surely, that plus 25 is going to be 24, 23, 20 laps. It'll probably be like 10.
At some point, Johnny is going to have to pit again, right? So he's going to probably want to figure out when that perfect spot is to try and maximize this. And obviously, it's not going to work for Johnny in this case because there's no caution. But, well, Gavin Hibbs into the back of Michael Goodman. Garrison Hogan into the back of Gavin Hibbs. There could have been a yellow.
And here's the glide deck.
Oh, don't! Okay, he's good.
Ooh, we got on him.
Calculated.
Worth noting that Garrison Hogan lost quite a bit of time to Blake Reynolds in all that. In fact, Justin Wadsworth and Matthew Weeks both leapfrogged Garrison Hogan during that pit cycle. So a bit of a difficult time there for Garrison Hogan. I think it is a decent time here as Blake Reynolds works to run down Nick Massey for us to get in our commercial breaks. We'll try to keep you guys along the side-by-side if we can, Dave, but we'll try and work them in here.
In the blue egg, you're always in the pole position, leading your brand toward victory lane. Don't spin your wheels, accelerate success with Blue Egg, fueling small businesses to win big. Fueling big to win big. Blue Egg, fueling small businesses to win big. Ooh, big. To win big, you're always in the pole position, leading your brand toward victory lane. Don't spin your wheels, accelerate success with Blue Egg, fueling small businesses to win big. Ooh, win big!
Since 2010, race fans have had one burning question. When will the Xfinity Series return to Worldwide Technology Raceway? You asked, NASCAR delivered. On Saturday, September 6, 2025, the magic is back. The track that launched the legendary careers of Harvick, Busch, Keselowski, Edwards, and Earnhardt Jr. is now ready to write that next chapter. We're going to introduce you to a new crop of future champions and Hall of Famers. And in the process, we'll create more of the greatest moments in racing history. NASCAR Weekend 2025, the NASCAR Cup Series Championship Playoffs, the Confluence Music Festival, and now 250 miles of the NASCAR Xfinity Series. 2 incredible races, 1 challenging track, a 3-day party of epic proportions. Go to www.raceway.com and lock in your weekend racing and camping packages for as little as $20 down.
They walk among us, but at 240 miles per hour, they become something more. They're thrill seekers, risk takers, and maybe just a little bit unhinged. Buckle up. This new era of speed, this racing revolution, it's just getting started.
3 years of sellout crowds, 3 years of edge-of-your-seat action, 3 years of jaw-dropping finishes. Worldwide Technology Raceway has rocked the world of NASCAR, and now NASCAR is giving us another reason to celebrate. The 2025 NASCAR Cup Series Championship Playoffs are coming. Sunday, September 7th, 2025. Just when you thought the racing couldn't get any more intense, now every single lap matters. One wrong move could be the difference between elimination and being crowned the king. The Enjoy Illinois 300, the Confluence Music Festival, the NASCAR Cup Series Playoffs, and for the first time in 15 years, the NASCAR Xfinity Series on Saturday, September 6th. Don't be on the outside looking in. See history being made in your own backyard. Go to www.raceway.com for the hottest ticket of the year.
Welcome back to the Monster Mile 200. You guys saw the lead change there where Blake Reynolds took the lead over from Nick Massey. He currently has a 1-second advantage over Justin Wadsworth. Matthew Weeks has also eaten into that lead. He's right there behind Justin Wadsworth, battling for third. Reynolds is having some trouble with some lapped cars. Gavin Higgins, that one there in the 13. That's opened the door for Wadsworth and Weeks to be within striking distance of Blake Reynolds here under this long green flag run.
But first, I mean, these two are going to have to settle this battle for second before they move forward with that. Matthew Weeks taking a peek under Justin Wadsworth here.
Looks like Wadsworth might have got a little piece of the wall through turn 4, but he's going to keep up the defense up on that outside lane, try and utilize the run down the straightaway. Weeks trying to pull him back with the side draft.
He went super high in 1 and 2. I haven't seen anyone go that high and actually make it work. Like, it worked out really well for him.
And Wadsworth made some speed up there. Matthew Weeks moving up, trying to get closer to him.
Yeah. Anything you could do, I could do better, and so on and so forth.
This battle is slowing both of them down. They're losing time now to Blake Reynolds, but it is kind of the fight to get up there and try to challenge for the lead.
Well, you know, we see that sometimes at Dover where, I don't know if it's the concrete or what it is, but even on iRacing, you know, maybe at the start of a race it tends to feed to the bottom, but as the race goes on and the rubber builds up and the track temperature changes, that racing lane tends to widen out, and maybe that's happening here as well tonight.
Track temp down a degree. 112 to 111 since the start of the race.
I think a lot of that has to do with, you know, the groove widens out, but the exit narrows up. You know, it's so hard to be side by side in the exit of these corners because the car jumping up out of that banking, it throws it up towards the wall. So you really have to be conscientious of that, and you can't quite get as close to the car on the outside that you're battling with as much as you'd like to, and that becomes a huge advantage for the car on the outside. Couple that with the higher momentum from the higher line, and it's just so much more difficult for the inside car to pull that pass off.
So Josh Adams drive around these guys. Nick Massey just came back down pit road. The undercut guys are all making their final pit stop of the race here with about 60 laps to go. This battle continues on, but they have lost about a half second to Blake Reynolds, but Reynolds is now dealing with Michael Goodman, Josh Adams, who are out there on fresher tires. So that the gap's coming back down. Wadsworth able to run a clean line here. That's allowing him to close back in on Blake Reynolds a little bit. I mean, just how much is the lap traffic affecting this race would be, I guess, my thought. It seems to me that Blake Reynolds is really struggling a little bit with all the various strategies where guys are catching him from behind. He's catching slower cars. It just seems like he's not been able to optimize that very well, and that's opening the door for these guys.
Yeah, and I really don't know what more you could do if you're Blake Reynolds. The dirty air is going to be killer no matter what. There's not a whole lot you can do, especially if you get up to a big gaggle of lap cars running different lines. You're just dealing with all that turbulent air, just tightening your car up. You're going to lose speed through it no matter what. Your only hope is to get through it as best as you can and hope that when it's your competition's turn to get through the lap traffic, that they can't quite get through it as well as you do, and that's where you get that advantage back.
That's exactly what's happened for Blake Reynolds. He has gotten through this lap traffic and left Justin Wadsworth and Matthew Weeks by a full second more than he had him prior to that entering of the lap traffic. Weeks and Wadsworth still have not sorted out that battle for second yet, but Weeks is still a few car lengths behind Wadsworth at the moment. Trying to take a look back in the field. Looks like David Tooker, Chad Frankenfield are in a pretty hefty battle along with Jonathan Cutlip trying to parse their way through more of the lap traffic. It's Harrison Talon working his way to the inside of David Tooker. I thought Tooker would make a little bit more ground up. He had that overcut past everybody else. He was the closer one to the lead. Paul Mikolajczyk was a little bit further back, so I felt like Tooker would really be able to capitalize with those fresher tires. It seems like he's up in sixth, but I thought maybe he could have been up around the Garrison Hogan level. Oh, never mind. Yellow flag.
Oh. So it was in turn 4. I did
Mark
not
Rubilis.
catch who.
Oh, and it might. Yeah, I think it was Mark. Maybe
So,
no, it was Scott Crump. It was Scott Crump. Oh no,
He
it's
hit
not.
the
Who's
pit
that?
wall.
No, it is Scott
No,
Crump.
that's Scott Crump. Scott Crump had hit the pit wall.
Wow.
And then when Mark came back on the track, he nearly wiped out Matthew Weeks.
Oh my. That was Weeks, was it?
Yeah, it looked like it looked like a number 11 to me.
And we've talked about how treacherous that pit road entry is, and it just
There's
bit
Blake
Scott
Reynolds, yeah.
Crump.
Oh wow.
That Weeks lost years off of his life from that one.
I am certain he was very vocally angry on the radio. Absolutely certain.
I'm sure he was like, "Hey, hey, Mark, is everything okay? Are you doing well? Boy, that was sure could have been bad, but everything's okay." Yep, sure he was very nice language like that. Mhm.
Blake Reynolds going to be the first car off pit road. That's Justin Vandermarl second off, but he is not on the lead lap. A lot of people are going to be taking the wave around right here. Well, a lot of people are going to be taking the wave round. One guy that's going to be, I believe, unfortunately pulled off of the wave round is Josh Adams, who had pitted. He's only one lap down. He does have somewhat fresher tires, but Paul Mikolajczyk stayed on the racetrack.
Oh.
And Paul is on the lead lap. He will be the leader technically when we get back around. Although maybe not. Maybe actually that does
I
not.
don't think
No,
so.
Paul wasn't going to be on the lead lap before, so him being on the lead lap now is him about to take the wave around. That's what's going to happen here.
Yeah.
All right, good. So everybody does get the wave around that's going to be in front of Blake Reynolds right here. That was going to be I was going to be frustrated for those guys that were behind Paul, but no, Paul was also among the cars that needs a wave around.
And now
But
the
that
one
is-
thing you have to watch out for for those guys who are taking the wave round, they're going to have to really watch out for each other on this restart. Also, they're all going to be single file behind this group of cars.
Yeah. So, in as much as they all want a quick yellow here, that might not come. That might not be,
Or they might be the yellow.
they might be the yellow, exactly. So, this should be a very interesting restart. It has bunched the field up. Gavin Hibbs, Matthew Weeks, Justin Wadsworth, all with the best chance they've had at Blake Reynolds since the start of this race. Reynolds will have control of the field, and there are just about 12 cars with fresh tires right now. So we'll see how this one plays out. Green flag, pace car on pit road. Green flag going to be back in the air right now. Blake Reynolds with a really good jump. Gavin Hibbs with a really good jump. Justin Wadsworth a little bit late to getting going here, and that's going to put him side by side with Gavin Hibbs into turn one. Looks like the restart's very spread out. Very spread out all the way through the field. Not a whole side by side racing, but that's about it.
Might have been some contact there between Weeks and Hibbs.
Yeah, that got super close.
Yep. Garrison Hogan lost a bunch more spots on pit road that time. Chad Frankenfield is up into 5th here after starting 37th, so a really good recovery drive for Chad. And also, he's fighting against a car that also has had a really good drive through the field. Gavin Hibbs started 32nd on the grid. He's up to 3rd, or 4th now across the line, but he'd gotten up to 3rd. Single file as these guys really start to push for this final stint. The first side-by-side battle is for the 9th spot between Ethan Stanley and Garrison Hogan. And you kind of mentioned it, Zach, but one thing that these guys are going to have to watch out for, they're going to get to the the lap traffic pretty quickly, given that those guys are on older tires.
Yeah, and of course those guys are going to be really desperate when that happens, because that's going to be pretty much their window shutting once they lose that lap again.
Ray Bracey's in turn 3 right now. He's not too far back.
Yeah, we saw Blake struggling with the lap traffic before that caution came out. Now, we're not entirely sure if that was just him, taking it easy and not being super aggressive because he had a bit of a gap to work with. So we'll see here in about 10 laps or so how fast he'll get through it, knowing he has no gap to fall back on. But yeah, that's something to keep an eye on here.
It is, as Justin Wadsworth starts to make inroads on Blake Reynolds and now starts to challenge for this race lead with 45 laps to go. Wadsworth, the first big-time challenger for Blake Reynolds in this race, at least on speed since the early stage. Last year's champion hasn't really been able to put together similar results, but he's had he had a good race last week, looking to have another really good result here tonight, and trying to grab a win and lock himself into that next round to avoid any shenanigans at Atlanta. That would certainly help your repeat chances if you're Justin Wadsworth here.
Well, if you think back to that championship season last year, he was good, had lots of good runs, but wasn't, only on a handful of occasions was he really competing for wins during the regular season. He really turned it up during the playoffs, and maybe that's what we're seeing again this season.
Yeah, Darlington is the one I recall offhand last year, where Wadsworth was really contending for a win. This year it was the Daytona 500 where he finished second. He's had a couple of he had another podium, I believe, in there as well. But right now he's fighting against the full distance king, Matthew Weeks. Matthew working that inside lane, that side by side battle that hasn't gone away since the long green flag run earlier. It's going to continue to rage on. These guys chasing after Blake Reynolds, fighting for the opportunity to get up there and challenge him for the lead, but they just can't sort it out.
Yeah, to cycle back to Wadsworth, that's what we call in the business the Joey Logano strat of just, laying low in the regular season, just doing enough to make sure that you're going to be in the big dance, and then slowly but surely picking up the wick until you get to the final race, you're holding the championship, and everyone's going, wait, what?
Yeah, that's a little bit what happened last year. He put together his first series win the week before the championship race. So, that's Wadsworth's been deserving, but here he is battling with Matthew Weeks, Blake Reynolds, lots of speed in that 6 car. Certainly an opportunity here today to grab win number 2.
And what a frustrating situation this must be for Matthew Weeks. You can tell he feels like he has lots of speed in that 11 car. He keeps trying to set up a pass, but he just can't get the run off the bottom to challenge Justin Wadsworth for that second position.
Yep, and in so doing, that's kind of letting Blake Reynolds kind of have enough gap to be comfortable. In the middle of this pack that's snarling behind Chad Frankenfield has lost a spot to Garrison Hogan. He is now 3 wide with Ethan Stanley. They're about to make contact. They're coming out of 4. 3 wide out of 4. Burrell's going to take over that spot. Chad is fallen through this pack a little bit. I think that 15 car might have run it a little bit hard early in the run. He might be paying the price for it early here.
Back dab in the middle of a Ethan sandwich there.
Ethan Stanley's really trying to send it in here, trying to figure out a way to get some of that track position back. He's been fighting an uphill battle since the very beginning of this race, has Ethan Stanley. Here he goes around Chad Frankenfield up into 8th spot. That's about as high as we've seen him since the drop of the green flag.
And going back a little further, once again, Tyler Fody still not running where we would have anticipated him. He's still just kind of right there in the 10th position, second plus off of the top 9 cars.
I think he made a little bit of contact with either with the wall or with somebody else a few laps ago. It gave him this really big gap. Now Corey Abbott's going after him. I think this car might be a little bit wounded.
Well, getting picked by me to win the race will do that to someone.
Fody trying to hang on to 10th. I think Fody wanted to see this thing go green to the end, too. I don't think he wanted that latest yellow, because he would have been firmly 7th or so, 6th or 7th, I think, once everything kind of wound down. And, now he's back in 10th. He's a couple of seconds off the lead. It's not really a spot where he's going to be able to make any ground unless something catastrophic happens in front of him. That includes a couple of his teammates. So, it works out because Tyler Fody's obviously pretty well off in terms of the point standings, but a 10th place run's not going to hinder his championship aspirations in any way.
Yeah, honestly, I'm not entirely sure how many guys even wanted the caution to come out. I feel like at least probably 2/3 of the field heavily groaned when the yellow flag came out.
Yeah, I think guys that really did want to see that yellow, Josh Adams, Nick Massey, to name a couple, although Massey had just pitted, so he's still 2 laps down. But like Josh Adams is back in the lead lap. He's one that I think really benefited from this. Paul Mikulajczyk was able to get a lap back here, though he probably would have been working his way into this top 10 by the end of the race if that thing had gone green. So yeah, I do think there was maybe just Matthew Weeks and Justin Wadsworth, honestly, guys who were going to have a chance or are now going to have a chance at the win that otherwise might not have.
Yeah, I feel like Weeks is like one of the top ones in the I didn't want that caution, because again, we we've already talked about a bunch, his ability to stretch the tires. And, he was making ground up on Blake before him and Wadsworth started battling. So it's not unreasonable to think that the race goes green, he slips by Wadsworth, and a few more laps down the road, he's knocking on the door of the 66 car trying to get by.
Well, speaking of the 66 car, he is starting to lap some of those guys who took wave rounds on the last pit cycle. Gavin Higgins right there. Ray Bracey's the next car up the road. So these lapped cars that trying to stay out, they're going to be on older tires, a big-time disadvantage. And if you catch him in the wrong spot like Jonathan Cutlip just did, you could really cause an incident. Cutlip got Gavin Higgins all sorts of out of shape. I don't even know. Did Higgins spin out? Where did Higgins go? He's not even on the screen anymore.
No, he's fine. We're driving good.
Cutlip got him all sorts of out of shape coming out of turn 4 that time. Might even started to have happened before Cutlip ever got there. I don't think Cutlip ever touched him. How about that? The speed difference was so massive, though, that it looked like Cutlip just knocked him sideways and got him out of the way. But no, that's not what happened at all. Gavin Higgins got loose. That car not handling particularly well on those older tires. He's going to come get new ones now that he's lost that lap again.
Yeah, honestly, I just want to say that's just Dover things.
Mm-hmm. Dustin Dewar just held up Blake Reynolds a little bit. That's going to give an opportunity to Justin Wadsworth and Matthew Weeks right here. They've closed that gap back down. Dewar's trying to, you mentioned it, Zach, the kind of desperation. Dewar's trying to hope for a yellow. Was not well timed. That closed down that gap between Wadsworth and Reynolds.
Now Blake running that extreme high line that Wadsworth kind of started implementing.
These guys are really diamonding the corner. I mean, yeah, that's how I feel. That's when I feel the best when I run at Dover. When you feel like you're running it up to the middle of the racetrack in each corner and then driving down the hill coming off, it feels really, really good. And these three have been the best all day at running that diamond lane, being able to move lanes. We've seen Wadsworth in the high lane, in the low lane. Blake's been able to do whatever he wants. Weeks has been able to run anywhere he wants. It's been these three cars, and they're going to be battling for the win with 25 laps to go.
It's wild, though. Like, I've competed and watched many a race here at Dover, but it's been a long time since I've seen cars use that third line to this extent and to this success. I remember, watching them use it a lot back in the Gen 4 days. But since then, you really don't see people venture up that high. It's always just the first and second lane. But now they are absolutely rolling this third line to perfection, and it's just wild to see.
I've used it in the Xfinity cars. I think they're a little bit higher horsepower. It's a little bit easier to get to, but yeah, at least in my venues in the trucks, usually you want to be on the bottom. This next gen car, typically I was thinking we'd have a kind of a bottom feeder race. That's what we had last year when Ethan Burrell led all the laps. No, it's been a multi-groove racetrack tonight.
God bless him. This is exactly what we want to see. This is when Dover is at its best.
And that's what the drivers want too. They want to feel like they can control their own destiny. They can find a lane that works for them. They don't have to follow in the tire tracks of the car in front of them and wait for a mistake. They can try to make something happen. Obviously, it hasn't been foolproof, right? We've seen how much of a challenge it has been for Matthew Weeks, especially these last few laps, to even draw within distance to challenge Justin Wadsworth for this second spot. But still, to feel like you can pose a threat and move the car around and control your chance to contend and compete and challenge other competitors is really all you want when you're a driver.
Right. That's when you feel the best. Is when you're making the gains, it feels like, right? It's not like draft or something like that around you. It's when you're the one out there saving the tires and doing the right things to create a long run pace. We're having about a 55 lap run to the end of the race here in total. So it's going to be whoever's best at the end of this run. And right now, these three have been under a blanket since the restart. They have really not left each other at all. Wadsworth's closed in a couple of times on Reynolds, but he really has not been able to get to the point where he can try and make a pass on Blake Reynolds. Wadsworth's just been comfortably in second for the better part of this run. I do wonder if he has anything left in the tank here, and if he might want to try to expend that to try and go get Blake Reynolds. Last time by for Justin Wadsworth, 4.66. Last time by for Blake Reynolds, a 5.15. So he did make up some time last lap to Blake Reynolds. This latest time by, their lap times were almost identical. 17 to go. 3-car battle for the win at Dover. This time through, Reynolds going to pick a 10th up on Justin Wadsworth.
Yeah, at one point I thought Gavin Hips he had started closing that gap a little bit. I thought he was going to enter the fray, but now he has faded back to about a second and a half astray of the leader.
And Tyler Fode, I thought, was going to start climbing through the field. He's picked up a couple of spots, jumped back into the top 10, but he just got bypassed by David Tooker. So move Tooker up to 8th, Fode back to 9th, and neither of those guys are particularly are really in the range of pace on the top three. The top three are really the ones setting the pace right now, and last lap by, Blake Reynolds was the fastest car on the track. That isn't on new tires, so that is starting to look like it's going to seal the deal, barring a yellow flag here. That 66 car's just got a little more pace tonight.
Yeah, you wager if he was just kind of, once again, just saving a little tire, and now with just that 14 laps ago, he's in a spot to finally start pushing again and pull away.
Time by, I think Wadsworth closed it back in a little bit. Yeah, Wadsworth was about a 10th quicker that lap. So they keep trading laps, where Wadsworth's a little bit quicker one lap, Reynolds a little bit quicker the next lap, and then they go back and forth on it. But Wadsworth has pulled away from Matthew Weeks by about a half a second. So as that gap continues to grow, I think it becomes more of a 2-car race between Reynolds and Wadsworth. And Reynolds is going to come up on some lap traffic here. So, Dave, if we can jump back up to the race lead. There we go. Where Blake Reynolds is coming up on Michael Goodman, Brent Jones. I don't know that either of these guys are going to intentionally get in the way or anything, but they're out there trying to run their race. But that may slow up Blake Reynolds depending on where he catches them. And I don't think he caught him at a particularly good spot. Wadsworth might be able to get both of them through this corner here.
Yeah, definitely two of the more respectful guys when it comes to this kind of situation. But like you say, Blake Reynolds just caught him at a bad time, and that almost cut that deficit in half.
Big gain for Justin Wadsworth that time through, and he can smell it now. When you're the car chasing, I feel like you get a little bit extra, right? You know what you need to do. You can see the guy in front of you where he enters the corner. You can alter your line in respect to that and try and make up ground on him. And right now, Justin Wadsworth is chasing down Blake Reynolds ever so slightly, but this lap, Reynolds with the clean air has been able to get Wadsworth back kind of exactly to where he was before. Yeah, our scoring showing all the gains basically erased in one lap there by Blake Reynolds with 9 laps to go. Trying to see if he's got any more lapped cars up the road. About half a straightaway up is Josh Adams, but yeah, I don't think that's going to result in anything with 8 laps to go where that'll slow Blake Reynolds down. I think Justin Wadsworth's going to have to go out there and get him on raw pace. That's a tough task. We've seen it all season from Blake Reynolds. That car has been extremely good at leading these races. I think he's going to have the most laps led over the course of the entire season. And it's resulted in a really strong season, but correct me if I'm wrong, Zach, I think he's only won, 2 races despite all that dominance? Or has it just been the one?
It has just been the one win.
Yeah, just one win for Blake Reynolds at Kern at the short track. So despite all that dominance this season where he's led a whole lot of laps, he has not been able to seal off a whole lot of these wins. And as Justin Wadsworth continues to remain in the picture, you can't box this win up yet for Blake Reynolds. He's still got to hold off that 6 car with 5 laps to go. Justin Wadsworth is keeping him right at arm's distance, but he's just not able to close in and go in and try and make a pass on Blake Reynolds at this point. Blake's going to be catching Josh Adams right about the last lap here. That's about exactly the time he's going to be catching the next lap car up.
And it looked like a real good lap from Wadsworth that last time. Looked like he gained a little bit.
Right at 5, yeah, just a half a second. Yeah, he'd gained, I think, each of the last couple of laps, but then that last lap, it was a little bit less. This lap, it's going to be right at even. 0.19. I mean, that's just minuscule differences between these guys lap after lap. They are so even right now.
And unfortunately, with the more and more laps click off, the more you need to go get more than a couple of hundreds if you're going to go challenge for this win here.
Yep, 3 laps to go, coming down to 2 to go. Tyler Fode going around Chad Frankenfield for 8th. Reynolds picked up a 10th to Justin Wadsworth, and Reynolds is starting to get the dirty air from the Josh Adams car up the road with 2 to go. I don't think they're going to catch any of those guys up the road, but Blake Reynolds is going to get that dirty air washing over the nose. Could make him a little bit tight on this last lap, but if there's anybody who knows how to get it done from that spot, it's going to be Blake Reynolds. White flag is out. 1 lap to go in the Dover or the Monster Mile 200. Justin Wadsworth taking that really, really high arc approach. He has all race long, trying to diamond that corner, get more of a run than Blake Reynolds. And as they roll through 3 and 4, that 66 car has been perfect all night long. It will not be enough for Justin Wadsworth. Blake Reynolds comes off turn 4. He will win his 2nd Belly Up Sports Cup Series race at Dover. Justin Wadsworth will come home in 2nd with an excellent result. Matthew Weeks, Garrison Hogan, and Gavin Hibbs round out your top 5. And it's Jonathan Cutlip, David Tooker, Tyler Fode, Chad Frankenfield, and Corey Abbott rounding out the top 10 in a very clean Monster Mile 200, where we got to see a whole green flag pit cycle and a whole lot of green flag racing tonight, guys.
Yeah, that was awesome. Like we've seen, a good amount of yellow flags from a few races this season. So to get a lot of green flag running this time around, it's exactly what everyone wants to see.
Can we go back to the 66 here? Because I think, since he brought it down pit road, I think he's got... Well, maybe not. I was about to say, this is one of the updated tracks. Oh, yeah, here we go.
Beautiful.
Where is their gear lane? Isn't it over to the right?
Nope, it's there. It's the graphic setting. The graphic setting, unfortunately, is not showing victory lane in all its glory. But hey, you didn't want any more cars blinking out there wreck, so here you go.
Yep, that's what you get.
Never mind. I wish we hadn't advertised this now. Go back to the results, quick!
Yeah, let's go back to the results so we can toss in a really, really strong 5th place finish from Gavin Hibbs. Great 10th place run for Ka-Chow Corey Abbott, another guy who had a good result last week, another good result this week. Definitely needed on that front. You know, a little bit of a surprising result from Ethan Stanley, Ethan Burrell, a couple of guys I thought were really going to be contenders for the race win tonight. Strong race for Paul Mikolajczyk, led some laps and saw his Channel 199 teammate win. Norgard, Vandermarl, and Dewar rounded out your top 18 there, and now we can take a look at that back half of the grid. Those guys have been flashing up for a whole lot of the night, but I do want to shout out, because we didn't really talk about it, big impact for Scott Crump on that pit barrier. That's playoff implications for sure. He's going to be down outside the cut line here, along with Seth Rawls, Tate Lytle, Ryan Gable, and probably RC Anderson as well for next week at Atlanta. That's going to create some real must-win scenarios for those guys that finish below the cut line.
Yeah, awful lot of problems for those orange banner drivers.
So with that, let's bring up Matthew Weeks and talk to our third place finisher tonight. And Matthew, you got one of your favorite type of races there tonight, where you got a nice long green flag run there in the middle portion of this race, and you were kind of within striking distance of the lead. Did you just really not want to see that yellow come out?
I didn't really. I was just, after we made that green flag stop and I was just sitting there behind Wadsworth and Blake, I was just trying to save my tires because I knew Wadsworth had a lap. He pitted a lap before me, and I knew Blake had like 4 laps past me. So I was just trying to conserve right there, and I felt pretty good. I figured if it went green to the end, Blake probably would have covered me on the fresher tires right there. But yeah, man, the long run was awesome. I felt like I could really pass people once we get 20 laps on the tires, and it just sucks that last caution gave me some damage. I guess Mark, I don't know what happened to Mark, but he come back on the track and hit me, and once I got that damage, it just made my car so tight.
And that's one thing I definitely wanted to ask. There was that contact there that resulted from Mark Rabillas taking evasive action after the incident with Scott Crump. You definitely seem to think that impacted the handling of that car, but still able to salvage a top 3 finish. But how much did you think that did play a role there at the end?
It definitely did. I felt like I was doing good riding just behind Wadsworth and Blake, just chilling, that after that caution, and I thought I was doing good, and I felt like I could pass Wadsworth and set myself up from Blake, and then racing him a little bit, and then I backed off, try to cool it down, and then after the 30 lap mark right there, it just swung so tight. I didn't experience that in that first run we had, and it was just a handful, and I was trying everything. I didn't want to lose third. I was trying to just maintain what was behind me, and luckily we did that, and a good points day.
Yeah, and speaking of the points, Matthew, obviously you're going to be in pretty good shape going towards Atlanta next week, obviously with a couple of solid results for you in these first 2 playoff races. Any concerns, obviously, with Atlanta? Are you going to go try to hang in the back, or are you going to go try and win the race up front?
I'm hoping we get runs, because unlike Dega and Daytona, tires actually come into play at Atlanta, so I'm hoping we can get some runs, and I'm just going to chill, take care of my tires, and pass people late and run. If I notice we're having a lot of cautions and wrecking a lot, I'm just going to try to get up front and stay up there. It's just a matter of how it feels when I get on the track and in the big pack with everybody.
And before we let you go, let's get those shout outs on this third place fish.
Shout out to you guys in the booth. You guys do a hell of a job. I can't wait to go back and watch it back. It's always a good time watching you guys call these races. Shout out to Betty over there watching, cheering on the Pro Edge guys. We had a good run tonight. A lot of us felt pretty good. Tucker looked really good on the long run, I think, because he pitted, with that first caution, took tires when everyone stayed out. So shout out to everyone that was running good. I know Trey qualified good, and then I don't know what happened to Trey, so he's starting to turn this season around. It's good to see all the fueled up guys. That was, our buddies. They're running good. John was pretty quick too, and shout out to Blake for getting another one. It was well deserved. I thought I had something for him, and as noticed when we got in that long run, we were just so even on the long run, speed. So I'm gonna get him one of these days on the long run, and hope everyone enjoyed the race. It was probably one of the best Dover races we've had in a long time. So, and shout out to Chad and all the league sponsors and everyone that makes this thing go around.
Got it. Well, congratulations on P3, Matthew, and we'll probably see you next week.
Hopefully. I want to win, dude. I want to win another one.
We believe you. You win a lot of these, so congratulations on P3, and we'll catch you next time.
All right, man. Thank you. You have a good one.
Now we will talk to P2 Justin Wadsworth. Justin, you got a copy, buddy?
Yeah, I got you guys.
Justin, P2, right up behind Blake Reynolds, but you could never seem to get to the back bumper to make a pass. Take me through those last couple of runs when you actually got up into that runner-up spot, and what you were lacking to get up there and challenge for the race win tonight.
Man, I think just that clean air, and Blake's so good. So I mean, props to him. He ran an amazing race. I mean, it wasn't for a lack of trying out there. I can promise you that. I was pushing this car as fast as I could, and I maybe gained a tenth on him the last 5 laps. But even if you get to him, it's so tough to pass here, especially with the lines we run, where you kind of enter on the bottom and then drift up. There's really no place to put your car, and passing on the bottom's tough. So.
You know, Blake, we touched on it a little bit in our broadcast here tonight, but we saw last season you really turned up the wick once we got to the postseason. How do you feel like it's starting to come together again for you here in the playoffs?
I do. I don't know what it is that I kind of do light the wick a little bit in the playoffs. I hadn't been in the booth all season. I was pretty disappointed, to be honest. And I was in there on Monday, finishing third with the Lake Norman 1, 2, 3, and then tonight to bring it home to P2. I'm just super psyched about it, man. I mean, Dover's one of my best tracks, so that's good for me. But yeah, hopefully we can just keep momentum going, and it'll be nice having a good points cushion for the Super Speedway next Wednesday.
Yeah, and speaking of the Super Speedway next Wednesday, you're going to have a good points cushion. I think you were in the top 10 last week as well, but does that change your calculus going in? Obviously, no guarantees at a place like that where you can lose a lot of points. Any strategy plans or anything that you want to deluge to us?
Divulge,
honestly, that's it.
Yeah, divulge,
close
right?
enough.
Yeah, that's the word.
Honestly, until I see the points, it's hard to say. But I'm not afraid to run in the back if I need to, just to lock it in. But hopefully I've got enough points. I don't have to worry about it, and I go and try the win thing. I haven't had any luck at Super Speedways. Super Speedway week, a couple weeks ago when we ran them on all the series, I think I got wrecked out in every single race, no fault of my own. So the luck can't get any worse. So I'm hoping it's only up from here.
And before we let you go, let's get those shout-outs. Let us rear up fish here. Justin?
Yeah, I've been hoping to get in the booth a lot earlier than this, but I'm running St. Jude's. As you guys know, it's cancer research. I'm actually going to sponsor the last race of the season. I'll be taking donations. My work is nice enough that any donations we make to a charity, she'll actually match it dollar for dollar. So I'm going to take whatever I can raise for that race, and then all my winnings from the season end is all going to go towards that. So be on the lookout for a donation thing coming out in the next couple of weeks or so. Shout out to my dad. He's always crew chiefing for me, old Craig Wads. And then shout out to my mom. She just had surgery yesterday, and she was actually watching the race from her hospital bed tonight, cheering me on. So that was pretty cool. And then shout out to my girlfriend, Jill. I mean, she's the one that lets me do this as much as I do. And I've said it before, but I mean, she's always there when I have those rough nights, and then she's always there to celebrate with me when I do well. And then lastly, shout out to Lake Norman. It's been awesome to be on this team. We're in the championship last year, and they've just an awesome group of guys, really. And then I guess finally, after the lastly, shout out to you guys, Chad, everybody who runs the league. I mean, you guys do this more nights than you don't during the week, and it's always fun to go watch them back.
Right, we appreciate it, Justin, and congratulations on P2. Hopefully we'll see you again next week, maybe one spot better.
Yeah, I hope so. Thanks, guys.
St. Jude's thing, very cool. Looking forward to that last race of the season with Justin Wadsworth. But for now, we'll bring in race winner Blake Reynolds, number 2 on the season. Blake, and we talked to you a lot this season, but not a whole lot after these race wins. And that one was maybe your most complete drive start to finish, buddy. Take us through it.
Yeah, I was looking forward, 200 laps at Dover. This was one of my favorites when I was in the Coke Series and even in NIS back in the day when you had all the horsepower. Tons of tire fall off. You don't really have it here in the next gen, but there's a lot of temperature fall off. So if you go really hard for the first 5 laps, you can destroy the temperature range on your tire. and then you're stuck at a lap time for the rest of the run. So you just really got to baby it. So, it was like me, Garrison, Justin, Matthew, and I forget who was fifth. We were pretty much the four all night, it seemed like, just on those long runs. And I just kept it in tempo. If I overdrove one lap, I'd underdrive the next one just to keep it nice and even and in tempo. I think that's the best word for it. So a lot of fun here at Dover, and it's nice to finally get this one done. I thought I was going to have it last week at Charlotte. I had the strategy, and then my game crashed when I was leading through the cycles. So I feel like I should have 3 probably on the season, like nailed down, but I'll take the second one, and I think I'm locked in the next round, right? I don't really know how the playoffs work here.
You are locked into the next round, yes.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, definitely take some stress off of Atlanta next week. But, going back to tonight, you talk about that tempo and keeping yourself under control over this 200-lap race. But one thing we noticed was kind of how the racing line changed over the course of those 200 laps. How much of the race was keeping an eye on everybody around you and even experimenting on your own to figure out where you need to put this car over those 200 laps?
Yeah, it was kind of pretty easy to tell, at least for me. Basically, the car was plowing tight in practice, and it was plowing tight at the start. So once the bottom got rubbered up, the car wasn't getting any angle anymore. So you just I really liked that the first seam. You could barely see the seams here at Dover, but pretty much second lane, just left sides above the rubber. And then you can do a late apex into the rubber a little bit, keep your car straight on exit so you can mash it down. But pretty much you're just with a tight setup like this, you're trying to get somewhere where you can get a little bit of that good slip angle. Not the bad kind, but the good kind. I think we all know what that means.
Yes.
Yeah, Blake, I've been asking the guys about their strategy next week at Atlanta. Obviously, you sort of covered it there, but the super speedway style aspect, the randomness, that's gone for you. You're locked into the next round of the playoffs in your championship hunt. Any strategy there? Maybe try to work with Garrison, try to move him forward in the next round.
Yeah, Garrison and Paul. Paul is in other leagues, like we've been running FTF the last couple of years. Paul is quite good at Atlanta Super Speedway, so I look forward to working with him and Garrison, and I forget the team I'm working with. We hang in their Discord. Is it Pro Edge?
Yes, Pro Edge.
Yeah, it's like John and Gavin and Tucker and all them. So I'm sure we'll work together somehow, some way. But me, Garrison, Paul, we got to unlock. And it's always nice to lock in before a super speedway cutoff. Thank you, Chad, for that.
Oh, Chad's always trying to make sure the broadcast product has plenty of drama, that's for sure. But before we let you go, Blake, let's get those shout-outs on this second win of the season.
Sure. Track Racer, Channel 199, Drink Machine Works. We had Travis Pastrana on the Coke broadcast yesterday. That was pretty cool. Racecraft, of course, and my teammates, Garrison, Paul, everyone at Elite putting this on. You guys are broadcasting, and I'm sure it'll be a fun rewatch. So thank y'all.
We appreciate it, Blake. Congratulations on that win, your second one in this series, and we'll see you next week as you chase number 3.
All right. Thank you.
And with that, gents, that is the end of the Monster Mile 200. We only have 5 races left in this season. And Zach, I'll start with you on closing thoughts because I think we're losing James for the rest of these 5 races. But I can't believe the season's already winding down. It feels like it just started.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting into the thick of it now. We'll lose 6 drivers from playoff contention after next week in Atlanta. That playoff bubble's got to get pretty tight between a couple of these guys. Like Scott Crump now finds himself on the south side of the line. Chad Frickenfield moves into the top 10 unofficially with what I think is the complete update on Sim Racer Hub, but maybe there's still a couple more adjustments to be made. And then, of course, you're going to have guys like Seth Rawls, R.C. Anderson, Tate Lytle. They're pretty much in must-win situations along with Ryan Gable. at a super speedway where anybody could end up winning.
Yeah, and we saw that last season. Justin Van der Marl won his first ever elite race at the Atlanta Super Speedway in this event. So when you say anybody could win, it really is the truth. But then I'll turn over to James. Obviously, we've really appreciated having you, James, and thanks for your contributions. You've made it so that I could race at Talladega a couple of weeks ago, and I've appreciated having you. I feel like the 3-man boost worked really good. But give us your final closing thoughts here tonight.
Yeah, appreciate the kind words. At least now the fine folks watching this at home won't have their eardrums demolished by all my unintelligible screaming. But yeah, this is arguably the best race that we've seen all season. With the amount of green flag laps in conjunction with where we were racing. It looked a bit scary at first with like 3 cautions and I think like the first 20 laps, but after that everyone settled in and it became a pure proper race like what we all want to see. So it was a awesome race to be a part of and an awesome season to be a part of here.
Yeah, we appreciate it, James, and look forward to having you back at some point. I know you're gonna do the 2003 series whenever Elite actually rolls that one. Whenever iRacing actually rolls out that car for us to race in. So we appreciate it, buddy. And for everyone watching at home, that was the Monster Mile 200 from Dover for the Elite Racing Network, the Belly Up Sports Cup Series. For David Huckleberry, Zach Evans, James Watson, and David Westergreen, we're signing off, and we'll see you next week at Atlanta.